guys, and welcome back to another edition of Pooch Patrol TV. So I'm going to cover in this episode some hot weather advice. We are having some outstanding weather this week. It's absolutely lovely, but it's really important that we make sure our furry friends, and I stress the word furry, our beloved dogs, keep nice and cool, because they will suffer in this heat and it can have devastating consequences if we don't know the signs, know what to do, and know how to keep them cool. So we're going to look at what we can do and how we can help out if they do suffer from the heat. So why don't you grab a coffee, sit down, buckle up, and I hope you enjoy. Right then, so what are we going to cover in this episode? Well, we're going to look at all the signs of heat stroke. What are they? There's 5 signs of heat stroke and how we can tell that our dog is really suffering from the heat. We're also going to look at how we can help them recover from heat stroke before we take them up the vets. Because taking them to the vets is going to be really important. We're going to look at a couple of charts about how hot is actually too hot for our dogs, and a few tips about what to do when you're in a car. We're going to look at some tips and tricks on how to keep our dogs cool during this lovely weather we're having. So if you have any questions, any comments, please leave them below in the description. And also guys, please like and subscribe. That will help us so much and help the channel to grow, and I could do more content like this and hopefully lead to better videos and some live videos as well. Thank you guys. Alrighty then guys, so let's just jump straight into it. Now I've produced a hot weather advice by Pooch Patrol, just showing some of the tips and tricks that we can do. I also have my 3 hot rules to live by. But I think the main thing we have to remember, the main thing is a dog has never died from missing one walk, but a dog has died from heat stroke. Just remember that. So my 3 hot rules before we go into it are: never leave in a car, never. Even with the windows down and you think that is going to keep the dog cool, just don't do it. Miss a walk or do a really early or really late evening walk, but only if it is cooler, and that's the emphasis on if it is cooler. And of course we've got the 6 to 7 second rule. Can you put your hand on the tarmac, on the pavement, on the floor? Can you put your hand and leave it there between 5, I said 6, but it's 5 to 7 seconds. So the reason we do this is the paw of your dog is probably the most sensitive part of the dog, and like if we're out in the sun for too long, we get sunburn. A dog can really suffer from walking on hot concrete. It will get blisters, it will be really sore, and the dog's got 4 paws, so imagine 4 paws covered in blisters. The poor thing can't walk. So just keep that in mind. But while it is hot, what can we actually do? What can we help keep them cool? So lots of water. Keep plenty of water indoors and outdoors if you can. You can buy these great bowls where they freeze, and it keeps the water really nice and cold for them to sip as much as they want. But if you haven't got one of these bowls, chuck some ice cubes in. And sometimes the dogs will even take the ice cubes out and chew and lick and gnaw. That is perfect because it's keeping them nice and cool. You can get gel mats, of course, these cool gel mats for the dogs to lie on. That will keep them nice and cool. But also a swimming pool. Get a small cheap swimming pool, fill it with water, and just let your dog jump in it and really have the time of his life. Try to provide plenty of shade if you can at home. Let them, chill under a tree, under a bush. Wherever is shady is going to be perfect. Freezing Kongs that are filled with wet food, or like the marrow bones that when they're empty you can fill them again with peanut butter or wet food, freeze them, because it's like a lollipop really. The dog will also take the enrichment of nibbling and licking and biting, but it will also help them cool down because you've just taken it out of the freezer. And if you do go for an early morning or a late walk, take plenty of water with you. When I go out walking in normal weather, I normally give a dog a bowl halfway through. So if I go for an hour's walk, 30 minutes in, I'll give them a bowl. But in this weather, if I do go out for even 10 minutes, I will give them 2 or 3 bowls full of water, just to keep the body temperature down and keep them from dehydrating. So how can we actually tell if our dog is suffering from heat stroke? Well, there are 5 main signs that we need to look out for. So heavy panting. Now a dog's going to pant anyway in this heat, probably a little bit more than normal, and it might even be a little bit more alarming to you to see your dog panting so much. But we're talking really heavy, excessive panting. And if it doesn't have any of the other signs, then it's just your dog's way of cooling down. But with this heavy panting and the other signs, it's probably the time to get worried. So while he is panting, is he excessive drooling? Now if your dog isn't one of the dogs that does drool anyway, you know, like boxer dogs or pug dogs, then any excessive drooling that is out of the norm, you need to be really conscious about. Vomiting as well. If they start throwing up in this heat with the drool and the panting, this is probably going to be a sign that your dog's suffering from heat stroke. If they get really drowsy or they start walking around and bumping into things, and basically they're uncoordinated the way they walk and the way they behave, that is a sign. And of course, if they start shaking and then eventually collapse, your dog is definitely at this point suffering from heat stroke, and at this point we need to help it out and then take it to the vets, and that's what we're going to look at next. So we've established that our dog is now suffering from the 5 signs of heat stroke that we went through in the previous slide, but what can we do to help our dog out? Because at this point it is literally a matter of life or death. So you definitely need to move the dog into shade, whether that's indoors or under a bush, a tree, somewhere where it's nice and cool and definitely shaded. Pour small amounts of tepid water onto their body. You don't want it to be completely cold, because that will just shock the body. The dog will go into shock and it could eventually kill them. So it has to be tepid water. And help them to drink small amounts of tepid water. You don't want them to gulp it down. It's the same for a human. You don't want them to gulp it down, but just give them like just a small amounts in a bowl. Let them lick that up and then refill it a little bit again, 5 or 6 times or as much as they need. And once their breathing has settled, once they seem to be doing okay, then you really need to call the vets, possibly even take them up to the vets. But that's really important, taking them to the vets and getting them checked over. They might need specialist assistance, specialist fluids that we can't provide, and hopefully your dog will be okay. So we've got a couple of charts here for you to have a look over. The one on the left is from Pet Plan, and it just goes to show all the different amounts of small to large dogs and how they all deal with the increase in temperature and what we can do. So for example, if we give them water is available, but if they are obese, if they are, and I don't know how to pronounce this, I'm going to give it a go. It's a brachycephalic. So that means dogs have breathing difficulties, like your typical boxer dogs and your pug dogs. Dogs that have got a squashed face, those sort of dogs, they will really suffer in this sort of heat as well. But what I want to say is that if you're going to leave your dog in a car, just remember that it will take less than 20 minutes for a dog to die in a hot car. Even if you think you've got the windows down, and that's going to help. 10, 15, less than 20 minutes, your dog's going to die. And in this day and age, people will call the police and people will smash your windows down. and I think that's a small price to pay if you're silly enough to leave your dog in the car for it to basically suffocate. If you're listening and watching this video, I'm pretty certain that you're not the type of owner who does that, but trust me, it does happen, and I see it every year. And even if it's just a quick 5 minutes to the shops and back, just don't do it, guys. Awesome, so thank you for listening again. Thank you to another awesome edition of Pooch Patrol TV. I hope this advice has given you some good ideas on how to keep your dogs cool during the summer months, what to look out for if they become poorly, and what you can do to, help them get better. You can look at our other forms of social media. I do write regular blogs on poochpatrolrugby.wordpress.com, and they are just my ramblings, my thoughts, as well as training tips, tricks, and also my doggy origin series where I investigate certain breeds and the history of the dog. I'm on Instagram at Pooch Patrol Rugby, where I just post random photos of all my walks and adventures, and of course you can go onto our website poochpatrolrugby.co.uk, have a look there and meet the family and look at all the dogs that I walk and train. So thank you again for watching, guys. Please subscribe if you can. Please subscribe, it means so much to me. Be safe, look after yourself, look after your furry friends, and I'll see you in the next one.